Hey everybody, welcome to Geeky Dads. Talk about geeky things. I'm JJ Johnson, and welcoming back to the show is Ted Atchley. Ted, I feel like it was just yesterday that we talked, man.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me back tonight.
All right, so Ted, you and I are going to be getting back into another Star Wars discussion.
Yes,
And tonight we're going to be talking about Mandalorian season 3.
this
Now,
is the way.
this is the way. And Ted and I just finished the Bad Batch discussion 2 episodes ago. So if you want to go check that out, go check that out. That was a fun discussion. I absolutely love the Bad Batch.
Yes.
And Mandalorian. Okay, so here's the way I think of it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to disagree with me. And that's fine. I don't care if you disagree with me. I'm right, you're wrong. There we go. There went half my audience right now.
There you go.
you
We
know,
should do the thing again where they send all the complaints to Jason Joyner like you did on that one
yes, the
episode.
complaint department is Jason C. Joyner at Geeky Dads, geekythings at gmail.com. So send all those to him. He'll be more than willing to take care of all your complaints. And Jason C. Joyner's getting ready to come up on an episode where he and I talk about our top 5 arcade games, folks. So I will make sure that he gets your hate mail during that episode. All right, but the movies, the 3 new movies. Let's talk about it real quick.
Okay.
I remember when Disney took this over, and for a lot of us who had grown up with Star Wars, we had grown up with at that time the extended universe. They rebranded it as Legends.
Yep.
We didn't quite know what Disney was going to do, and then they came out and they kind of said all these books are they're done. They're not canon. All right. And it disappointed a lot of us because for a lot of us, that was what we knew.
Yeah.
So they came out with the 3 movies. I think The Force Awakens, we were all just excited to get a new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Was it a perfect plot? No, but we were excited to see all our favorite characters back, blah, blah, blah. And it left a mystery about what's Luke doing. The Last Jedi was a little divisive.
A little.
Just a little bit. Personally, it wasn't the direction I wanted them to go. I've
Right.
watched it and I've my attitude towards it has softened over the years, I think. And then of course the Rise of Skywalker, it is what it is. But I kind of like, and of course, you had Rogue One, you had Solo, and I dug both of those movies. They were fun, they were exciting. I was excited to see what they did with Rogue One. I think what Disney Plus is doing with these, with Andor, Bad Batch, what we've seen with Rebels, what we've seen with The Mandalorian, what we're going to see. I think that they're kind of bringing in some of this, some of these things, these elements we love from Legends, and implementing them, because we're going to get into that a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know where I stand on a specific character. I'm about to start rooting for the Empire. But I think that they're kind of I don't want to say it's an apology. It's they're kind of bringing in those things that we all loved about the extended universe, and really starting to do some unique stuff. So, what are your thoughts about what they're doing with all these series before we get specifically into our Mandalorian season 3 discussion?
Well, I think if you look at it, I think what Filoni's doing is he did a great thing for the prequels in that, especially with Clone Wars, the animated series, he really rounded out a lot of that story, introduced us to characters, and through Clone Wars, he really enhanced the viewing of the prequels trilogy. And I think he's trying to do the exact same thing now with the sequels by using the Mandoverse, whatever we're going to call it here, this New Republic time, to really enhance the sequel trilogy so that things that may have seemed a little odd or out of the blue on first viewing make a lot more sense. For me, the sequel trilogy and Rise of Skywalker, I viewed that very differently after reading Chuck Wendig's aftermath novels and after reading Bloodlines. The author escapes me at the moment, but those 2 novels gave such a different view. Like you understand things that are happening, and you're like, you know who that character is who doesn't really have but two lines. Like, wait, I know that guy. And then when he dies, I'm like, oh, I knew that guy. I'm sad he died.
Yeah.
So I think they're really trying to use these series, whether it's going to be Ahsoka or The Mandalorian or Rangers of the New Republic, and they're really going to try to fill in a lot of the gaps the same way they did with Clone Wars, filling in the gaps for the prequels.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a while since I've read the Aftermath trilogy. I think that was the first set of books that come out in this new Star Wars. And of course, Bloodline was written. It's Claudia something. I'm drawing a blank on her last name, but I know who that book was. That book was really good because it sort of connected,
Right.
all these some specific spots, I guess you could say. And so, I'm kind of looking forward to Ahsoka. I'll be honest with you. When I first heard it announced, I had the same attitude when I first heard Andor announced. So it's kind of like, all right, what is she doing? I mean,
Yep.
I loved her in Clone Wars, but it was set so far back. She's aged so much more. I'm like, what can we really do with her story that
Right.
would be significant? After the first couple trailers, I'm digging it, and Andor, as we discussed in our first episode, our episode we did on Andor, when I first came to it, I had to stop and rewatch the pilot. And the reason is because I had to remind myself, I am not watching the hero's journey type typical Star Wars story.
Right.
I'm watching sort of a, I don't know, a Born Identity, sort of a Mission Impossible 007 type story or something like that. And I had to, it was a much slower pace. And once I approached it, it was very, very, very good. So, okay, so let's get into this this discussion on the Mandalorian season 3. Now, I threw this out on Facebook. I got a few comments here. All right, and they're kind of mixed reviews.
Okay.
One individual, I'm not gonna mention names. All right. You all know who you are in the Facebook group. He says, I've been a major advocate for Mando. I know this person. They've actually named their dog Mando.
Wow.
And even the robot episode that felt like a filler and made no story sense. He says, I was underwhelmed by the season finale. I love the characters, but there was so much convenient plot trash. It was just difficult to be happy at the end of it. All right. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Another person says, I love season 3. Really enjoyed the humor. I wanted the killer robot friend to get fixed, though. I guess that's asking too much. And, I didn't know how they would really explain that if it ended up happening. So
Wait, are they talking about IG-11?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, did they not see the end of the finale?
Yeah. But I mean, is it really?
I guess we should spoiler warning this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, folks. Sorry about that. There is a spoiler warning, and for those of you that missed that spoiler warning, please send all your complaints to Jason C. Joyner at geekydads@gmail.com. Another person said, I really liked it. I've heard some viewers thought it was directionless. We'll get into that because there was early couple episodes. I was like, okay, where are we going with this?
Yep.
But it worked for me. I felt like they established Bo-Katan organically and that she's a strong enough character to carry the portion of her story. The bit with IG was hilarious. And so I agree. I felt like they really established her this season as a much more central character.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Oh, if my kids had that robe or that, I would go absolutely insane. So, all right. So let's get into this. So to set this up, I just want to do a quick introduction. And the way we're going to do this, folks, is we're going to kind of do a brief overview of episodes 1 through 5. Then we're going to talk about episode 6, which was the ultimate cameo episode. And then we're going to talk about the final 2 episodes, which really is the meat of this season. That's episode 7 and 8. The names of each one of these episodes obviously escapes me, folks. So for all you diehard fans out there, forgive me. Okay, so Ted, this first season of The Mandalorian, we get to the end of the pilot and we're like, oh my gosh, what in the world? We got a baby Yoda.
Hmm.
The entire season was these individual episodes, but there was this story arc of Mando protecting the child.
Yeah.
And we're driven by this question the entire season of who is this?
Hmm.
Is this like Yoda's son, child? Is this somebody else? All these questions that we're driven by. All right, the second season, obviously, still protecting the child, but it's now become a story of getting them back to his home, to his people. That was kind of the thing, and for a while there, we thought his people was like, all right, we're going to go to a planet full of Yodas,
Yeah.
and what are they like, and all this. Are they all Jedi? And so we were kind of driven by that question. And we get to the end and we get Legends Luke, by the way, which we
Mhm.
all absolutely geeked out over and loved.
Grown men were crying. I may
Yeah,
have been one of them.
yes, because in I'm gonna make enemies here. In the Last Jedi, we got grumpy Luke, and that's not what a lot of us wanted. But
Sure.
that's my opinion. My opinion, folks. My opinion. Um, but we were left with the question: what's going to happen? Because he's with Luke now. What's going to go with season 3? And then we got the Book of Boba Fett.
Yep.
And we kind of bridge the gap right there in the Book of Boba Fett. Grogu comes back to Mando, and then of course we start the season off. But here's the thing: this season felt a little differently, and I want to get your thoughts on this because
Mhm.
in the other seasons we had individual episodes that were sort of like their own individual adventures, sort of like the Bad Batch does. But this one felt a little different. It was apparent, we didn't know. We all didn't know if Moff Gideon was still around. We all thought he was going to trial. Um, all these questions that it's just like, okay, who's the big bag antagonist in this story? And so we're kind of wondering what's going on, but it felt a little different because it felt like the entire instead of these individual adventure episodes, like we were getting episodes that were one big adventure instead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a case of Disney not having enough confidence in themselves because as the season wore on, you kind of started to see that this season was really more about Bo-Katan. So
Yeah.
I think if they had said, okay, Mando's done, we had the Book of Boba Fett, and now we're going to have the Book of Bo-Katan. I think that would have set expectations better for this season. But I think they were just too scared. Like, okay, how do we market that? Like, people aren't going. People want the Mandalorian, right? But they needed to be true to the story they were telling. They were telling the story of Bo-Katan. She's clearly looking at it from a writer's perspective. She's clearly your protagonist. She's clearly your main character as you look at the series as the season as a whole.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this season specifically, the main protagonist is Bo-Katan. She's the one that's making the choices. She's the one driving the story. And Mando and Grogu, who, by the way, he's kind of inactive for most of this season. I mean, he's not doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's kind of they're being pulled by her decisions in a way. And, so, of the first 5 episodes, there's like these 4 where they're trying to get back to Mandalore. They've bathed in the waters. Um, they're Mandalorian again. And by the way, the armorer lady drives me absolutely up the wall. Because I mean, if I'm Mando, I'm pulling out the dark saber and going, "Come on, lady, seriously." I
Well, but
literally have the
he
dark
was
saber.
raised. She raised him though. I mean,
Oh, I know, but still, I'm talking a little smack. But that's
yeah.
me. That's my personality. It's not his. Okay.
Right.
Um, but it's kind of those first, of the first 5 episodes. There's those 4 specific episodes where they're coming back a part of the Mandalorian tribe or the Mandalorians, the tribe, they're rescuing the younglings and the foundling, whatever you want to call them.
Yes. Yes.
And those are some great episodes, but still, I was kind of like, okay, where are we going this season? It felt at the first part, and this is where I think they tricked us, because it's kind of like, they weren't giving us a clear direction of what the journey was. And then we get this little, we had like, as one of our commenters talked about, the robot episode, which felt a little bit like filler, but I think it kind of showed a little bit of his character arc, because at the very beginning of the season or the series, he didn't like droids at all. And now he wants this droid back. So those are my thoughts on those first 4 or 5 episodes, outside of the Dr. Pershing.
Right.
Did I say his right?
Pershing? Yeah, Dr. Pershing. Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of his episode, those first 4 ones, it just felt like, we weren't sure where we're going, but they were pulling the hood over our eyes, I think, in a way, making us look this direction without revealing what was about to happen in the other. It's like smoke behind the mirrors or something like that felt. What are your thoughts?
Well, those first 5, I mean, there were moments that I remember out of those first 5, like the moment at the end of episode 2 when we see the mythosaur. Like, I lost it. I like, freaking mythosaur. Like, that was just like, that was so cool. And then you get to the Pershing episode, and we're seeing, the New Republic, and we're starting to see some of these things we've always wondered about, the amnesty program, which has kind of been built up in some of the books. We see freaking Zeb. I mean, I'm doing the DiCaprio point, like, it's Zeb. I'm like, really freaking out. And then you get to the next episode where they're rescuing the foundlings, and you get that awesome flashback with Grogu, and you see freaking Keller and Beck, and I was just so happy, like, to see Keller and Beck, and to see him in live action and doing the things that he was doing. And I was just so happy for Ahmad Best, because he took such criticism, and he got such a hard time for his portrayal of Jar Jar Binks. To see him to come back and be welcomed into the fandom, and the fandom to embrace him like that, I was really happy for Ahmad Best, and that really made that episode for me. Apparently, if the armor makes you a piece of armor, you're getting a flashback. It happened to Din. It happened for Grogu. It happened for Bo, probably. We just didn't get to see it. And then that 5th episode was just, is really cool. I'm never, ever going to tire of watching Mandalorians drop out of the gauntlet. And then, the Kowakian monkey lizard is going, there's an ambush over there. And the armor using her tools. Like, she never ever uses a blaster. She's never even made a blaster. And she's using her tools and whacking those guys. So, yeah, those were the first 5 for me. They were moments here and there where I just was like so happy and excited, and like seeing things. And that's the first 5 for me.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about the mythosaur. All right. Yes. Just a second. Okay. There was a scene, I'm trying to remember who it was talking to, Mando at the time, that says, your people used to ride.
Right.
Who was that?
So that was Kuiil. He was the Ugnaught in season 1. Kuiil's trying to teach him to ride the Blurg.
Yes.
And he's like, your people rode the mighty mythosaur. Surely you can handle this little bull of a Blurg.
Okay. My wife has a theory. And I didn't think about it until today, because I was talking to her. She, of all the things Star Wars, Mandalorian's the one thing she watches with me and the boys.
Okay.
And she has a theory. She thinks that Grogu is going to end up riding the mythosaur at some point in the next season. What do you think? They
teased that at the end of episode 8.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but she reminded me of the conversation, where, he said, your people used to ride the mighty mythosaurs, back, and that was season 1. I think that
it was
place. Yeah.
I believe it was the 2nd episode of season 1.
Yeah. So, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I didn't think about that until, and then, tying it in here at the end of season 3, I'm like, that's a pretty good theory, because I think they could pull that off. So,
oh yeah.
Let's get on. And let's talk a little bit about the armor real quick, because
okay,
she was kind of reserved with Bo-Katan there for
Hmm.
a while, and she came around and told her, "Remove your helmet." And you could kind of see she didn't want to remove her helmet.
Yeah.
But it's like her character arc of kind of, and I honestly, there was a moment there I was wondering if she was going to betray him.
Yeah.
I
There
really,
was a lot of speculation about that.
I had a feeling. I was staying off the spoilers. I was staying off of blogs and YouTube videos and all that stuff. And I
Yep.
was honestly worried that she was going to betray him in maybe the last episode or something.
Right. Because of
But
the title of the next to last episode, people
oh,
were
I
like,
know
okay.
it. Yes, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But it didn't happen, obviously. But she sort of came around
Mhm.
and to a different way of thinking, realizing that the only way that we're going to win, or the only way we're going to be able to do what we want to do, is if we come together and put our differences aside.
And I think that was the main theme and thrust of season 3, was to show that, the way that we are strong, it's not because of these trinkets, it's not
Yeah,
because of traditions or rules or any of that. It's when we come together in community and put aside our differences, but come together, that's when we're strong. And I think that's really, if you go back through it, that's the overarching theme of season 3.
yeah, and I think they did the. When I look at these first 4 episodes of episode 1 through 5 that deal specifically with them, this is all building up about them putting their differences aside because they don't understand or they don't know the threat that is on Mandalore.
Right.
They do not know that Moff is there,
Right.
and you know, so you kind of see how this theme that they built really does serve them really right there at the end. So now let's move on to our good old Doctor standalone episode.
Okay.
I like this episode. I know a lot of people didn't because obviously it gets away from the baby Yoda and all this stuff. All right.
Are you talking about
I
Dr. Pershing or Star Wars CSI?
Dr. Piercing
Okay.
or CSI. I like this episode. All right.
Hmm.
I mean, I thought it was, this, what was the program called again?
The program,
The what?
the amnesty program.
Amnesty program.
Yeah.
I kept calling it the reentry program, which is the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, but the amnesty program, we kind of got to see it a little bit,
Hmm.
and this is kind of one of these things that was kind of, historically we've seen this happen before. I mean, when you look at Germany after World War II, a lot of this was taking place,
Sure.
and same thing with the Empire of Japan. So this isn't so far off, really, in a way.
Yeah.
Heck, we saw it after the Civil War.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is not something that is far off as far as reality because this happens. But
Right.
you also see the difficulty that it brings for a character and the doubts that are sown within them. Um, and I'm sorry, but oh, Kane, what's her first name?
Elia Kane.
Leia Kane. She is just, you talk about a cold and evil character.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she, in my opinion, she is cold and evil in
Yeah. Big time.
such a strategic way. What are
Big
your
time.
thoughts on her and the way
Oh
she
man.
played the scene?
I kind of had concerns about her from the very earliest parts of that episode. Like, I don't know, and then, there, wasn't like what she was, was she on, whose side is she on? And
Yeah.
as it's going through, and she just, I mean, she worked him so
Oh,
perfectly. I mean, just ideally, as working in, kind of a spy kind of idea of just, just bringing him along and getting him to want to do the things that she wanted him to do, and ultimately so that she could take him out for Gideon, which was just incredible. And it's just, I know, it's kind of sad to me to see like the New Republic being so much like the Empire. It's
yeah.
like, didn't we learn anything, guys? Like, oh yeah, we've got this. Imperial torture device, but let's not disable the setting that fries people's brains.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, both sides are going to have their evils in some ways. And it's like, which one is less evil?
Right.
But the New Republic obviously has some problems. And
Yeah.
you see that when they're not able to really do much to help patrol the outer rims.
Right. Well,
They're-
and then Kane shows up there again, where she's like, "Ah, they haven't actually signed the charter."
Yeah, yeah. They haven't
You know.
signed the charter, so
Yeah.
they're on their own. Tough.
Right.
Deal with it. I mean, um, and again, that's not beyond the realm of reality. We see
Right.
that in our current world right now. So,
Yeah.
so I think that, but again, it's just like you see, she's cold in a calculated way, and I think that's what drives a good villain to me is they don't have to always be a Palpatine or something in that nature.
Oh yeah.
They can be so strategic, so behind the scenes, and do
Sort of
things.
a Deidre Miro.
Yes, in many ways, and it just kind of those. I think Star Wars is doing what they're doing with some of these new villains that they're producing out there. And I have a bad feeling we're gonna see a lot more of her, either in the next series coming up or within next season.
Yeah.
But she was very cold. She kind of gave me the creeps, and I love this just because of the world building that this episode did
Yes.
for us. Um, but like I said, it was sort of stuck in there, just kind of out of the blue. And I think that's a lot of people don't like those little side quest type episodes.
Yeah.
I don't mind it much as long as I know it's contributing to the story. And of course, we find out at the beginning of episode 8, yeah, it contributed to the story quite a bit.
Right.
So
It felt like that there was a show they were apparently working on, Rangers of the New Republic, and they ended up getting canceled. It's like this feels like a script that was written for that show, and kind of
yeah.
okay, well we've already got this, we got the assets, we kind of we got to use it, so let's stick it in here.
All right. Well, let's get on to the meat of our discussion tonight.
Okay.
The last two episodes, episode 7. Obviously, I know it's titled "The Spies," I believe.
Yes.
It starts with Kane
Yes.
sending Moff Gideon a message, and he's on Mandalore hiding.
Right.
This is where he is at, and it's kind of like, oh crap,
Which means that interference that everybody else has experienced must be him.
right?
It can't be atmospheric because he can apparently cut right through it. So it must be something he's generating out of that base.
Yeah, and of course, the ad confusion. The X-wing pilot, the captain, or
Carson Tiva.
yes, yes, yes. He finds the shuttle,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Moff Gideon's shuttle, and he's like, "That's he's like, this is Mandalorians that did this."
Yeah.
So that adds a little bit more to the story about, okay, whoa, who freed him? How
Yeah.
did
I
he?
saw that as a total misdirect right from the start. Like I'm like, no,
Yeah,
he's got access to Beskar. Those were somebody loyal to him.
yeah, and so you're kind of first you're like, and then you realize where he's at. Obviously, so he's hiding on Mandalore.
Right.
Now, before it cuts to that, we see the Shadow Council
Yes.
and Captain. I'm gonna totally butcher this guy's name. He's in the Heir to the Empire in those books. Captain Pelion. Did I say that right?
Gilead Pelion. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
All right. So obviously, huge Legends characters.
Yes.
If you've read the Thrawn books from the original series, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and I'm drawing a blank on number 3. It's right behind me. But anyway,
Last command.
Last Command.
Yep.
So anyway, obviously he's in there, and he basically mentions Grand Admiral Thrawn
Yes.
is returning. Now, they teased it so bad. and we thought we were going to get maybe a Thrawn in episode 8.
Yep,
Obviously,
yep,
this is helping connect and bridge the gap between Mandalorian and Ahsoka and what's going to happen over there. All
yep.
right. But to just see them starting to bring all these things these best parts that we love about these characters we love in the Legends series and start to pull them in even more.
Hmm.
Um, I I absolutely love that scene because it shows you that yes, the New Republic is established,
Yes.
but you don't totally kill an empire off overnight. All right. And I think a lot of people think that the empire is still lingering out there.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on the Shadow Council?
I thought they first of all they nailed the casting. Like the guy looks just like Pelion.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just perfect. And it was interesting because you had Pelion and then you had Brindle Hux,
Hmm.
who of course is the father of Armitage Hux from the sequel trilogy. Um, a lot about Brindle. There's a 2017 novel, and again, I apologize, the author's name escapes me, but the Phasma novel really goes into Brindle Hux and his relationship with Armitage and kind of who he is. But to kind of see him there, and really, if you notice, Brindle Hux and Pelion are really the only two that are in those kind of imperial outfits. Like everybody else is kind of they don't seem to be doing quite as well. But you can just tell, like by the body language, by this the way that everybody's acting, like this is not a community, right? These
Right.
are a group of people that will stab each other in the back as soon as it's convenient for them, or they're all wanting to grab that power. They're all wanting to fill the void. Power abhors a vacuum. So you can just it's a nice contrast between the community coming together, the Mandalorians, versus this group of people that should be working together, but they really aren't.
Right. So you have Bo-Katan who's leading, the traditional, the one they keep referring to almost as a cult, that group, and in her former group, which if we just back up a second and go to our big episode with Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd and Lizzo and all those casts. It was a fun episode. The
Star
entire
Wars CSI.
Yes, the entire point of the episode was to really for Bo-Katan to kind of gain the trust back of her old group and things like that because she's
Oh,
kind of fallen out of them. So
and
now
to
they
win the dark saber back.
yeah, win the dark saber back, all this stuff. So I mean, it's a great episode, and it kind of bridges that gap, brings both tribes and clans together. Now they're going to Mandalore, and they still don't realize there's a danger down there,
Hmm.
and they don't realize it until obviously they meet a group that's still living on the planet.
Right, the survivors.
I got these Mad Max vibes when
Yes,
I was
very
watching.
much.
I loved it. I was like, yes, and but I mean, it was fun, and then they get down there and they realize, oh my gosh, this is a trap in a
Yeah.
sense because he was expecting them to come because Kane had given him the warning.
Yep.
Uh, Um, what are your thoughts about them coming face to face with that moment when they realize this is a trap?
Yeah. When he flies down in his dark trooper suit and he's got them cut off. He's got Din cut off from the rest of them. Oh yeah, it was like because they're running through there, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not rock anymore. We're in an Imperial base, and they look up, and they're the interceptors that he had asked the Shadow Council for.
Mm.
It's like, oh, this is not good. And then you have the super commandos. It's like those are jetpacks. Like those aren't Mandalorian jetpacks.
And then the Praetorian Guards.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it just shows the Empire. They want to take the best part of your culture. They want to take the super commandos. They have jetpacks. They have flamethrowers. They have all the trinkets, but they don't understand what it is to be a Mandalorian. The
yeah,
speech in that episode that Din gives to Bo-Katan about it's not about the dark saber, and I don't care about your bloodline, and
yeah.
I care about your honor. I care about your character. That's what makes you a leader. It's just and I will follow you until your song is written. I'm like, yes. I just love that part.
I kept thinking they were going to break through. and rescue him in some way
Yeah.
because he was fighting him off.
Yeah.
And then you turn and you look and you get this glimpse of red coming around the corner, and you're just like,
Oh yeah.
oh crap,
Yeah. I mean,
because
the first time we ever seen a blaster like overheat, Paz Vizsla just sitting there, just rocking and rolling. His blaster actually melts. He was firing it so much, but he took out all the super commandos. I
yeah,
just, way to go, Paz, man.
yeah, and it was again the story demanded that somebody die, obviously. Um, and I had a feeling. I mean, they were building him up way too much this season.
Hmm.
I had a feeling he was done for. But he gave him a chance to escape. They cut through the hole, and I love that scene where she just kind of looks at him and she turns and she goes and she starts cutting the hole in the back, and he just keeps firing. But Mando is he's been taken away, and obviously he's fought the commandos, he's fought the guards, he has lost,
Yep.
and we're sort of sitting there going, of course Grogu has escaped, obviously,
Yep.
so we're breathing there. But that episode, to me, it was so well done and structured that it just left you going, "Oh my gosh, what is going to happen next week?" Uh,
That was the hardest 6 days. I'm
yeah,
like, hey, can we go back to the CSI episode and grab Doc Brown and time travel a week ahead, please?
yeah, because I mean, we're all sitting here going. I mean, that was one of those ones where I was just like, I don't know if I can wait a week. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I really could not think about how are they going to get out of this.
Well,
Uh,
and then the speculation just went bananas on what was going to happen. And I think that's part of probably
yeah.
maybe some of the disappointment you see on episode 8 is people had built up these scenarios that were just bananas. Grogu's going to ride in on the Mrs. Star. Boba Fett's going to show up and finish. I mean, there were all these crazy theories. Luke's going to show up again. And there was no way episode 8 could ever live up to the theories that people had built up because they were so like, I have to know what happens. And they just started filling in the gap for themselves.
Well, and I think that's the danger you run sometimes. When you leave off with such a compelling cliffhanger like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we saw it in the movies when Ray meets Luke for the first time, and we're thinking, oh, and I think that's why there was so much disappointment with the Last Jedi because there were so many of us that thought, all right, Luke's gonna come out of this, he's gonna go
Right.
fight this, he's gonna lead us in the battle, and then we didn't get that.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing here where, we're like, okay, what is going to happen? And of course, we see what happens. He's being hauled through this hallway and he's still fighting for crying
Mm-hmm.
out. And then Grogu shows up.
And I love that reversal of the the last season, the dad saving the son. Well, now the son saves the dad, and I love that role reversal for them with him coming in the IG-12 suit and saving Din Djarin.
Yeah, and I love the IG suit. I think it's great. It's fun. It's a blast. And he just sits there, no, no, no. And I'm like, yes.
It's so
And
cool.
yeah, and you can kind of see he's there to fight for his father. And
Hmm.
he is there to and he can hold his own. But obviously, you know, Bo-Katan and them, they're not done fighting.
Yep.
And so this entire episode, it felt short, episode 8, it felt really
Hmm.
short. And I think it's just because, there was a little bit at the end, but it felt short because it was just the pacing was so fast in
It's
this episode.
incredible.
And you get this incredible scene where he's oh, he's crashing the ship down. I mean, it's coming down. They've abandoned ship. It's coming down.
Shout out to Axe Woves.
Oh yeah. I mean, hands down, holding on right there to the last second.
Yep.
But you get this incredible fight between Moff and Mando.
Yep.
And of course, Grogu is there.
Yep.
and it's a great fight. I mean, he finds then he finds the clones. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and
Well, yeah. Wait. Well, first it's the hallway scene. Like
yeah,
Mando got his hallway scene.
yes,
Where like he starts out and he doesn't hardly have any weapons and he steals the knife off the first guy, and then he steals the prod off the second set of guys, and
yeah,
then he gets a blaster. It's like he's almost like leveling up as he goes through each level of that defense grid, that hallway. But that was such a cool. He got his hallway scene.
yeah.
Luke
He got
Luke had a hallway scene. Vader had a hallway scene. Mando had a hallway scene.
oh, and that's not the only hallway scene. Go back to Phantom Menace when Obi-Wan had his hallway
Oh
scene
yeah,
when
yeah,
it's opening up right there before fighting Darth Maul. And so, there's some obvious, everybody's got their hallway scene, but that was the perfect one because, I mean, it was hand to hand combat the entire way. And this is
yeah,
the Mando we're used to seeing. We're tired of seeing him get his butt kicked, and now we're seeing him kick some butt.
yeah.
But and then they get to the clones, and you're kind of like, oh, what is Moff up to here? And
Right.
course, now we're so used to seeing clones between the Bad Batch, Rise of Skywalker, and now Mandalorian. We're seeing more and more of the clones come into this world and kind of getting a sense of what's going on.
And you
And
realize he wasn't part of the Emperor's cloning program. He was trying to clone a force sensitive version of himself.
right, yeah, he was messing with powers I don't even think he understood.
Yeah.
So okay, so you get the scene, and then Bo-Katan comes, and they start
Mhm.
fighting together. And then you get the God, am I saying this right? The Praetorian Guards. I'm
Yeah.
horrible with
Yeah,
pronunciation.
it's the
Okay.
Praetorian Guards.
Yeah, I'm horrible with pronunciation, folks. I cannot pronounce anything. I can read it, I can hear it. I suck at pronunciation. Hookophonics did not work for me. I took it 3 times. Um, but the Praetorian Guards, I mean, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've always liked the guards.
Hmm.
I've always thought that they were great. I still remember, Ray and in the scene in I think it was The Last Jedi. That was
Yes, what a fight.
yeah, great fight with them. But Mando's sitting here against I think there was 3 of them, 3 or 4 of them.
Hmm. Three
But
of them.
Grogu gets in there by himself with them. And it's funny because they turn their attention off of Mando and start to go fight him.
Yeah.
But it's like they don't know what to do with him. What did you think of this? He's just doing somersaults and jumping around and escaping them so easy. And he hasn't started using the force really with them yet either.
Yeah.
He's just
Well,
escaping. I mean, other than his jumps and leaps and things like that to deflect them. But
it was so nice seeing the things that Luke taught. He's using the exact things that Luke taught him.
right,
But I guess I had two really takeaways from that fight. One, as we saw with Paz Vizsla, you just don't take you need a group, like you need a partner, whether it's Ray and Kylo or Grogu and Din. If you're going to take on the Praetorian Guard, you better have somebody's got your back. You
yes,
need you need you need two being greater than one there. Um, what was so interesting to me throughout that fight, Grogu never uses the Force aggressively. Like when he was
no,
captured at the end of season two, like he was throwing stormtroopers around, he was force choking guys. But now that he's been trained with Luke, he would move a weapon away from somebody, he would stop a weapon before it hit Mando, but he was perfectly embodying that lesson that Yoda taught to Luke and Luke passed on to him, that the Force is used for knowledge and defense, never for attack. And that's exactly what he did in that fight.
exactly. Right. And then when Mando gets in there, he uses the force not to attack, but to defend Mando.
Right.
By yanking weapons away or pushing them to the side or yanking them away from him. I mean, you can see this push pull. It's all the things that Luke has taught him, and you can see that playing out here, like you were saying. I mean, it's all in the again in defense of his father.
Right.
So okay, and then let's talk a little bit about Moth crushing the dark saber. What are your thoughts there?
uh, it was really I did not expect that. But I was I was glad the dark saber was destroyed. I think it needed to be destroyed.
Mhm.
I just I kind of wish that maybe Bo-Katan had decided to destroy it herself to prove like I don't need this, but
Yeah.
to have it destroyed, like oh my gosh, that's just that that all is lost moment, and for her to realize I don't need it, I don't need my, as he calls them, trinkets. We don't need these things. We need each other as Mandalorians.
Right. Right. I was kind of glad to see it go. I was kind of glad to see her
Mhm.
get rid of it. I felt like it was one of those things that she and even the Mandalorians themselves, all of them, were sort of using as a crutch in a
Yeah.
way, or like you said, a trinket, um,
Hmm.
some sort of a talisman or something like that. That was, that's not what leadership is. Leadership is not possessing something. Leadership is being able to motivate, inspire, and
Yes.
empathize with your people and show humility. And you see Bo-Katan sort of become the leader through this season, not necessarily because she has the dark saber now, not
Right.
necessarily because of what her name is, but you see it through the actions that she begins to take.
Right.
And so, and I think there's a lot of humility that she gains in this season because she has lost it all, everything.
Well, and to that end, I think it's also her admitting
Yeah,
before all of them her mistake or her betrayal. What she felt like she did on the night of 1,000 tears.
yeah,
She, and you can even see Costa Reeves, not yeah, Costa Reeves, the girl who's with her. She's like, don't tell him, and Bo's like, no, I'm going to tell him the whole story. I'm going to tell him what really happened.
and that
And
was
that humility is another aspect of leadership.
yeah, and I like that. I like stories. I like it when a story takes a character and they bring them to that point where they start telling sort of their dark moment story.
Hmm.
And for her, that is that dark moment story where she's retelling this is the thing that I regret. I tried
Right.
to surrender. I did all the, and it's just, you can see the disappointment, but at the same time, I think getting that off of her chest was that moment where she can turn from reacting to everything around her to now taking action and taking
Right.
the steps. And I think that was a powerful storytelling moment right there on that little, I don't know what you call it, a boat or some sand boat or something. I don't know what they're
It
called.
almost reminded me of the skiff from Return of the Jedi a little bit, although this one had wheels instead
This,
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
repulsors that Jabba had.
yeah, it had the wheels and things. And so it was a little different.
Very Mad Max. That was very apt when you said it was Mad Max.
Oh, I'm a huge Mad Max fan, man. Fury Road, that's I mean, it's hands down one of my favorite ones,
Yeah.
and I've seen them all. So, I'm excited. I think the Mandalorian writers have sort of they've sort of returned us to that principle that kind of binds all Star Wars together, and it's not necessarily the Force. I mean, it's kind of that principle that there's a line between standing for fascism and standing for freedom, and it's
Hmm.
all found in the individuals. And
Yeah.
it's found in the individuals deciding to stand against darkness. It's found in the individuals deciding that, you know what, we're going to put our differences aside,
Right.
and we know we're not perfect. We know we failed. We know we've had problems. And yes, this person over here has failed, but we're going to follow this individual into battle because even though our collective failures look like a bad resume for what it means to lead or what it means to really be a part of a tribe. At the end of the day, it's better than what is over here with the dark side. And I think that we're starting to see more and more of that storytelling
Hmm.
and to take shape within these series.
Yeah. And the other kind of meta narrative that you see with Star Wars is how are you going to use your power, whether that power is the Force for the Jedi or it's the incredible technological weapons and equipment that the Mandalorians possess, the best car and all their trinkets.
Yeah.
And what do you do with that power? Do you use it to rule? Do you use it to unite? Do you use it to fight one another? What do you do with how do you use power, and what's the right way to use power?
Yeah. All right, man. I think it was a good season. I understand why some people were disappointed and a little let down.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, because it's storytelling is an art, and sometimes it doesn't always connect with audiences. I was never a big fan of The Last Jedi. People know that about me. But I love what we're seeing with the Disney Plus series. And I have nothing against Ryan Johnson. I think he's a brilliant filmmaker. And I think Knives Out is one of the most amazing written stories. I just don't think that what he was doing with his storytelling worked for Star Wars for me. And I think
Yeah.
that's the same thing. And not everything that Disney does is necessarily going to work for everybody. And that's okay. Um,
Well, I
Go
think
ahead.
for me, um, it shows me why I prefer um, novels and writing,
Yeah.
because there's so many things that go into a story like The Mandalorian. That's a TV show. It's a major TV show where you are writing around the technology, or you're writing around a schedule. Like, for instance, we didn't get a scene in this season with Mando showing his face.
Right.
Well, to peel back the curtain a little bit, the reason was that Pedro Pascal, I'm sorry, I probably butchered that name, but the actor was filming Last of Us for HBO and wasn't available. So they literally couldn't do it. So you're constrained as a writer
Yeah.
in what, you can't tell the story necessarily you want to tell the whole way. And that's one reason why, I kind of have a preference for novels and that particular form of storytelling is there's a little more freedom to really tell the story you want to tell.
Yeah, and so I invite a lot of you, if you're just familiar with the Star Wars, as far as just the 9 movies, um, and of course 10 and 11 if you count, Rogue One and Solo, and you're only familiar with what Disney Plus is doing, dive into some of these novels. There's a timeline out there. Dive into the Legends series. I mean, the Legends are just rich with so much, and we're starting to see those characters come into the stories.
Yeah.
But dive into books like, go watch Rebels and then go read the new Thrawn trilogy. I mean, for crying out loud. And then, watch Return of the Jedi and go read Heir to the Empire. Go
Mhm.
read Aftermath, and by Chuck Wendig, whether you like Wendig or you don't like Wendig. Not every book is going to hit it out of the park. Go read the comics with Doctor. Oh my gosh, Doctor
Afra.
Alpha. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Go read those comics and
The War of the Bounty Hunters was incredible, especially if you like Kira and Solo. To
yeah.
see her story continue in War of the Bounty Hunters,
Oh,
that was an incredible set of stories.
and then you get the Darth Vader comic
Oh,
book.
the Darth Vader,
Oh my,
him and Palpatine.
yeah. I mean, there's so much richness in these graphic novels and these books that you will not get enough of it because there's so much fun. And if this is your fandom, um, then take a chance. Go read one of these trilogies or these series. And the difference between some of these series, I'm gonna make a lot of people mad, and some of the debate going on about epic fantasy stories right now is these trilogies are actually finished. So- oh, and I just had everybody turn off the mic right there. I love epic fantasy, by the way, folks. And if it takes 15 books to write it, finish the series, that I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, I know my attention span. If I see a book's over 350, I know I'm gonna have a hard time finishing it. So I kind of like, all
Yeah,
right, I might leave that one for later.
yeah. I mean, I do a lot of audiobooks nowadays.
Yeah.
So, I grew up reading Will of Time, so
Hmm.
I think I approach it sort of from that perspective. But when I approach one of the Stormlight Archives by Sanderson or something like that, I
Sure.
do a audiobook. I've read The Stand by Stephen King probably 4 times,
Yeah.
and I find that now I'm just going back to the audiobook instead because it's just easier than picking up a Chihuahua killer.
I read a lot of missionary in my younger days, Alaska and
Yeah.
Chesapeake and Texas, and those are some chonkers for books.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's some big books out there, folks, but don't be afraid of them. So, and don't be afraid of these extended. We're getting off topic, but who cares, So. All right, Ted, I appreciate you coming on, man. What is this, like episode 5 or something for you?
Something like that. I so appreciate you having me back, man. I have so much fun doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. You were on the candy bars episode.
Yep,
I
yep,
think that might have been your first episode.
yep.
What episode did you do after that? Was it Obi-Wan?
We did Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
Yep. We did we did Bad Batch.
yeah.
Um we're doing Mando. I think we've done one more.
I do too, and I'm drawing a blank.
Did we did Andor.
Yes, we did Andor.
We
So
did Andor. You thought about Andor, which was gosh, that was
yeah,
so many. Looking
uh,
forward to season 2.
I am too. It's gonna be a while though.
Yeah.
So all right. So this is episode 5 for you out of 37, 38, something like that. I don't know what episode.
Wow.
So anyway, folks, we are on YouTube now. If you want to go check us out, I will leave a link in the show notes. And all episodes are now being video recorded as we are on a new recording platform. We will also be putting these videos out on YouTube as well. They'll also be available, continue to be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you listen to podcasts at. I think we're on like 13 different platforms. So,
Wow.
yep. So appreciate everybody listening. I thank you all every week for tuning in. Remember, if you go to wiccandsarcasmcandles.com and use the promo code Geeky Dads, you will get 10% off of your candle. Just tell them JJ sent you. So, and then that earns me some brownie points with my wife. She gets some good business. So give her good business, folks. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. Ted, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Anytime, man. We got to come back anytime for you.
All right, everybody. This has been Ted and JJ. This is Geeky Dads talking about geeky things, and that is a wrap.